Hello, everybody, and welcome to the YouTube channel, The Big Black American Secret. Tonight, I want to read to you from this book, Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes. Very good book. It's about a case in 1850 where apparently a young lady had to prove to the court that she was Indian. And the reason she had to prove she was Indian is because she was being accused of being a black person. Okay? So, and it's on top of that is one other thing I want you to focus on while reading this, and it's these people's last names. Okay? It is clear from a decision of 1850 that persons of American descent, meaning Indian, in order to escape from the status of mulatto, meaning a mixed person, a white person mixed with a black person, or European mixed with African, that's what they meant by mulatto back then, or colored person, that's of course black Americans, had to prove that they were of free Indian descent, unmixed with African blood. The case is as follows. Amelia Merchant was challenged as a witness on the grounds that she was a person of color. It is argued on her behalf that her grandparents were free Indians and also her father, James Mitchell, was a Portuguese. Opponents said that Mitchell had associated with colored persons and was so considered. So, and here's one thing you have to know about it. Europeans from Portugal were darker skinned Europeans. They looked like you and me, and they also had kind of probably straighter hair. You know what I'm saying? But, the Moors, people like those people came from Portuguese. They were black, and it does says here, he associated with colored people, and so he was considered to be colored as well. Okay, the verdict was in Merchant's favor. That is, that she was of free Indian ancestry, and that she had no African blood. Okay, no African blood. The Supreme Court reviewed the case and reversed the verdict, in spite of the fact that the Mitchells had paid no capitation tax, and in quotes it says, charged to free colored people. So basically, free colored people or free black people paid a capitation tax. Indians did not, which they had never paid capitation tax. So that alone lets you know that she grew up in a family that was Indian. But anyway, and that James Mitchell had apparently married a white woman. The grounds for reversal were in part that many Indians had been enslaved, and that the Mitchells came under the status of colored persons, apparently because they had not proved descent from free Indians in amity with South Carolina. They looked black. You understand what I'm saying? They look black, so therefore they must be black. But these people have been Indian going way back. Okay. If nothing else, this 1850 case illustrates that persons of American blood, Indians, could still be considered to be mulatto or colored persons in South Carolina, especially if a suspicion of African ancestry existed. We had to fight way back then to prove who we were, and it continues. It don't never stop. Now, I don't know if you noticed those names. Her last name was Merchant. Her father's last name was Mitchell. People, our surnames, our last names are indigenous last names. My last name, Jackson, is an indigenous last name. I mean, you've got the Shavers, the Chafers, the Stones. 99% of our last names are indigenous names. Now, here's what I was taught in school growing up, that our last names came from our slave masters' last names, and their people came from England. I'll give you an example. My last name this is how it was explained to me. If your last name was like mine, Jackson, so if your last name ended with son, then you was the son of Jack, and Jack was an entertainer, like a court jester. You understand what I'm saying? So, the son of an entertainer, or son of the joker who entertained the king. And it growing up, that made sense to me. I mean, who could argue with somebody giving an explanation like that? You know, so, and they're white people with the last name Jackson, so it's very confusing. But going through what I've studied, I've learned that our last names are indigenous last names. And you know what other thing is very interesting? Our first names are indigenous as well. And here's what they used to make fun of us, and they still do, and they try to get us away from it. Is a lot of our people, we grow up. Well, when I was growing up, they didn't want people to have names like Shaquita, Antoine, stuff like that, because they say, well, with those kind of names, you won't be able to get a job. Those are ghetto names. But really, those names have never been ghetto. They've always been indigenous. What that was your genetic memory. You understand what I'm saying? There's a thing called genetic memory. And things are done genetically, automatically, that you don't know why you're doing them, you're just doing them. We've got a puppy, and we bought this puppy when it was real small. I don't think it spent a whole lot of time with other dogs, because when we got it, it was very little. And I'm sure it never buried a bone. I can almost guarantee you this dog didn't even know what the fuck a bone was, because it was probably coming straight off his mama's tit. But this dog will get a bone, and it'll try to bury it in the couch, because it ain't an outside dog. It ain't in the dirt. But instinctively, genetic memory, it tries to bury bones so they can go back later and eat them. So that's purely genetic memory. So us with our names, Kia, Marcus, Antoinette, Shaquita, Levita, those first names are precious names. Those are names of your people who came before you, and you didn't even know it. You couldn't know it because they tried to direct us in another direction. Genetic memory is so very strong. They don't want you to remember who you are. Why do you think they don't want you to wear your natural hair? If you see enough of your people to have love and confidence in our natural appearances, it'll spark our genetic memory, and we'll come back to our full understanding. They want us to follow the European standard of beauty. Or so-called standard of beauty, because ain't nothing pretty about it. You understand what I'm saying? But all of this is an elaborate plan to keep you blind, so you won't know who you is. You understand what I'm saying? But your last name is indigenous. Almost no matter who you talk to, their last name is indigenous. And it's okay. You ain't got to take all this in right now. I can prove it all to you. It's all documented. It's everywhere. It's just hidden, and you just have to know where to look and know how to look at it. But I thought that was a pretty interesting location, and it says this case in 1850 proves how we had to prove that we was Indians just because we look Negroid or African. When the whole thing is, we've always been who we is. It's just that the lighter skinned black people were more accepted into mainstream society, and that's what happened. That's how they was able to say, hey, okay, these people are Indians, the lighter skinned ones with straighter hair, aka the Eskimos, the Chinese-looking Asian people come across the Bering Straits about 12,000 years, and the darker-skinned Indians, those are African slaves. So the deception is deep, but and that's why I teach. My whole goal is for all of us to know who we are, so that we can claim our rightful position on this planet. On this earth, and specifically in America. But it starts with you. It starts with me. We start slow. And again, I do teach a coaching class. We meet once a week for 4 weeks. And after we finish, I personally certify you, documented piece of paper, where you can go out and teach other people, preferably your children. You start there so they'll know who they are. And you'll also learn how to do your genealogy, how to go back and find out who your people were, what tribe you belong to, and stuff like that. It's very interesting. And it's hard to grasp, and I understand it because I struggled with it at first too, because it just seems so far out, because all our life we've been told that we're African. And even this little passage about this court case in 1850 shows you how hard white people worked to make us think that we was from Africa, and all the while we wasn't. You understand what I'm saying? So I told you it was going to be a short video, and it is. I'm going to end it right now. But again, be sure to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment if you want to be considered for the coaching class. I don't accept everybody because my time is very precious and short, But I do want everybody to learn this. So I try to get as many people in as I can when I can. Again, I'm black first, meaning, I'm black before everything. My spiritual beliefs, my political understandings, anything. And one other thing, I'm on a campaign that we should not vote for anybody presidentially if they do not guarantee us in writing reparations. And I'm gonna take a quick second to try to explain that, because you're saying, well, we need to vote. I mean, we got to vote. That's our right. Our ancestors died for our right to vote. No, our ancestors didn't die for our right to vote. They died for our right to choose the best candidate to vote for. To just vote blindly and get nothing from the vote, they didn't die for that. You understand what I'm saying? And that's something we've been forced to believe, that we must just vote to be voting. You don't do anything just to be doing it. If there's no benefit in it for you, you should not do it. And there has not been a benefit in voting for black people for a very long time. Now you might say, well, if we don't vote, then Donald Trump's going to stay in office. Well, here's a way you could look at that. If Joe Biden wants the presidency really bad, if he want it bad enough, then he'll guarantee us reparations, and we'll put him in the White House. And he can do that by presidential executive order if need be. He can bypass the Senate. He could bypass Congress. You know what I'm saying? They write executive orders all the time. And here's what black people don't understand. We've been told that we're minorities for so long. We honestly believe our numbers are low, when in fact our numbers are very high. We are the most, numerically speaking, we're the dominant society on every continent. It's more of us than it is of them. It always has been that way. But they don't want us to believe that. Now, here's proof that we got pretty large numbers. Every election cycle, they work their asses off to suppress the vote. They go out their way to find imaginative ways to get black people not to vote, from closing down voting things to changing districts. A people who's got the majority numbers, let's say white people say they're majorities, then why do they work so hard to suppress our vote? That's because it's all smoke and mirrors. If black people vote in mass, it's major. We make things happen, but they don't want you to know that. You know what I'm saying? And it's my job to bring things to you that they do not want you to know. And if you got some things that you need me to know that I can put out to people, you let me know. So you put that stuff in a direct message to me, and when I see it, I'll put it out, because it's each one teach one. You know what I mean? And on that note, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm going to bed. Got to get up early. But thanks for your time and your attention. It means a lot to me. Good night.